Nene, I knew we shouldn't have asked these people to speak. This is the worst group that I've had to follow since the time I had to follow Jack Valenti and Bill Moyers in a toast to Tom Johnson. I said all we needed was Billy Graham. Very hard act. Only thing I can say is, Lucy, it's going to be tougher. If that makes you feel better. We talked about sharing, everybody sharing our speeches, so we all wouldn't get up and say the same thing. The truth is, nobody wanted to share their speech because they didn't want anybody preceding them to steal from it. So I would like to thank Bill Moyers for stealing all my best lines. And I should just sit down because, you know, as Billy Sunday said, I never heard a bad short speech. And you don't win any souls after the first 15 minutes. Well, Mother, this weather is just like you. Driving over here, the rain was falling on us as we walked, and we got out of the car. As we walked, and the sun was shining. That's Nene. She's want to make sure that she balances everything. Everybody gets something. And I just thought, Nene, this is a great day for it. But remember, not tomorrow. Well, so many times when we talked to Mother, and Mother, you know, didn't fear death at all. And she wanted to talk all about what she wanted at her service. It's very pragmatic. This I like, that I don't, you know, and so forth. And so every time she'd say, I want you to really celebrate. Well, that's a tough assignment, Mother. And yet, as we gather to send you off on what you always called your final great adventure, I think that at 94, you put it off as long as you could. We had time to relish those sweet days, to welcome my first grandbaby, and to make oh so many memories. But we knew that day would come. And I always told you that so many would want to be there to celebrate with you that we would have to do it in springtime. And she said, no. She said, no, I can't die in springtime because I don't want to miss one wildflower spring. And Nene, this was the most beautiful spring for wildflowers. Of course, I would claim to everybody that Mother planted every one of them. It was just one of those ways she thought about everything. I told everyone that would listen that I just couldn't speak at her funeral because I was just going to be too emotional. Because not only would your death devastate me, Mother, but you were my best friend. You were the person that I could tell my secrets to. You were the person that I could express my fears, my concerns. You were also the one I could tell about my boyfriends. And I would say, now, Mother, I'm telling you this as my best friend, not as my mother. And she would understand that and not say things like, well, don't you remember last week you said how much you were in love with this other guy? It was wonderful. We had this very, very, very special relationship. And it'll never happen again. Mother always thought of everything, you always thought of everything as a great adventure, a mantra that you instilled in us. It was very good advice when we had to do something that we didn't want to do at all. Just think of it as a great adventure. Along with your love of adventure was your Puritan work ethic. Something you tried to give all of us. I'm not so sure that you ever learned just to play, just to have fun. And so I would tell you that you had to go off with me. We had to escape from the White House particularly and go off and just have a fun lunch. No, not for the National Heart Society or to raise money for some other good group, but no, just a fun lunch out at a public place. or go to the National Gallery. And I'd drag you away from your desk, and I knew that you would do it for me. You would do it as a favor for me. I want to learn how to play, Nene. But for you, everything needed a purpose. And in the White House days, everything you did had a great purpose. And the Great Depression, I think, left a deep impact on you, resulting in another one of your legendary qualities, your frugality. And we teased you about it unmercifully. Daddy used to say that he couldn't reach you because you were always out trying to save 10 cents on a can of beans. You wanted to get 3 bids on everything, and you wanted to hold on till 2010 so we wouldn't have to pay any estate taxes. Oh, darn. Well, Mother didn't let us down very often. Later in life, she thought it was really frivolous to spend money. She wasn't interested in things for her personally. Things didn't matter to her. But she knew that the greatest thing she could give you were memories. And so she would take us on wonderful trips to places that we wouldn't afford to go. And I know one time we were going through London, and our children were traveling with us, and they leaned over and they said, "Oh, the Savoy, that's where we stayed with Nene." She gave them lots of memories, and I'm sorry, raised their expectations in many ways. But what you would also do, Nene, is you would invite your friends to come and stay in some wonderful, glorious place. You'd rent a wonderful house, particularly overseas, and we would go and have a wonderful time. One of the ones that I remember the most, though, was one time when she invited us, remember this, Nene? You invited us to come to see you in France, in this wonderful French chateau, very old, very historic, and all 15 of us had only one bathroom to share. Well, of course, one of your biggest adventures started when you married Daddy, and he enrolled you in politics. It was an unglamorous role for you. I know you told me what you did mostly were things like make sure he had a clean white shirt to wear, and getting on the phone and calling everybody in the telephone book from A to Z and ask them to vote for him. He had lots of little projects for all of us. When Chuck became a candidate for office, I said, "Mother, what advice can you give me how I could help Chuck? And what did you do for Daddy?" And she said, "Well, I followed behind him everywhere and said thank you to everybody." Well, in those early days,